So, what should onboarding look like for a data scientist?
I think I would put it in two clusters. One for a junior person who is basically getting now introduced to the real world, and the second aspect is of someone who's had experience in the field. And when we talk of onboarding, this is purely the process of where you're taking this person through the company culture, and also getting to acquaint this person. Okay, those are now the roles that are so general to whether you're joining as a new person or all that. You'll have to get to acquaint yourself with the company culture. How do these people get to work? And when it comes now to data science, for whether you're a beginner or you experienced in the field, first thing would be, of course, get to know how does data science team or your data team collaborate and work with other teams, because you're realizing that one challenge that we're having right now is that there's that what we call company culture clash. That data science, we say this is a team that's working with various teams, like from sales, marketing, and all that. They're basically helping them in their operations and all that. So that means we first need to know how do these teams collaborate, because you're basically pouring other units of the organization with data-driven processes and all that. So first thing is get to know how do these teams collaborate and work together, because you cannot be able to build solutions if you don't know how these people work together. So get to understand how do these people also handle projects that fail, because now we're getting to see many projects, many machine learning projects more so, because those are the projects that are heavily on predictions and all that. Most of them are failing. So get to understand how does this company manage expectations, because at times, like even lately, we've seen a very big company like Apple with some of the best teams and the best talent building a solution. That means a company has already invested in how do these people manage and handle projects, because from there, when you're coming in, you'll get to know this is how these people have been managing expectations in previous projects. What are the lessons that you can pick from there? Because you know there are always those documentation and everything, so that you as a person, you should start from there. What are the lessons? What do you need? Because you're coming here to basically build solutions to help them. And also aside from that, you need to acquaint yourself with what are the existing solutions, and infrastructure. Because at times you will be interviewed for a data science role. You get to the company, looking at the job description, and what you get at the at the company, it's totally two different things. You find like maybe this is the kind of role you're coming into. You get to the company, you realize they don't even have that kind of infrastructure. So it requires you like that onboarding process. Get to know exactly the company, its inner operations, how your team works with the other team. If probably you're starting off and you're coming to a company that has no data science team, or maybe one person or two people, now that will require you to get to know how do you also get to build other integrations with other units and all that. But it's what I would advise to each and every one of us during the onboarding process, be willing to learn, get to learn as much as you can, and also look at how has the company been handling projects before, and also look at get to interact with the various people, because from there that's you get exciting ideas. What are the problems that they've been facing, and how can you also, as you move forward towards building solutions, how you can also help them. And also be willing to learn and be quick to deliver results, because again, as a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, be effective in your work. And more so this applies to those of us who are junior, like you coming into role, you realize you have to deliver within a timeline and give the best. So I would say that's what has I've been trying to work on my end, and I would also love as we get into the field, get to know how do you manage expectations for the company and all that, so that at the end of the day we have a maximum return on investment. Yeah.
So, briefly, what are some of the three things you wish you knew before starting out as a data scientist?
One thing, quite a good question. Three things that I wish I knew when before I started data science. That it's not all about the hype. People out here will look at AI and the AI field and be like, oh, it looks quite fancy. I wish someone would have told me that you're going to feel that has so much to be done, And for you to even get to a point where you're building your skin and you have a bit of something running, it will take you long. So that should have registered in your mind, and get to know that you will require a lot of perseverance, you will require a lot of persistence, and you will really need to get to know how to interact and collaborate and work with people, because most of us in tech, we just want to build these solutions maybe with two people and all that, and on your own. So one thing would I wish someone would have prepared me psychologically, was that you coming into a field that is messy, that is not well defined, and you have to define your own path. So with that, it's good to have your sense of focus. What do you want to do? If your point is not still clear where you want to head, engage with people. So second thing would be getting to know how to communicate and interact with many people, and being aggressive, because we're talking of the field is not yet well defined. There are many people who are diving into the field. There's so much popularity around it, and so what does that mean? And I'm coming there. How do you get to stand out from the rest, or how do you even get to progress to the next level? So getting to interact with people and being aggressive, that is also something that I wish someone would have told me, because I've had now to build on it, because this is something I just thought going like maybe like any other field that's already well defined. And also I would say that having an open mind and always be willing to learn from any kind of people, and because this is something that I used to overlook, and I would love those of us who are getting into the field, as much as yes, we're practicing ourselves to have empathy and getting to understand people and the challenges and all that, and looking at the field, also get to know what kind of impact do you want to, because we're looking at AI, it's quite a vast field, and you want to get to dive into the field. So I would say like having, even if it's not so clear, but a sense of purpose. Okay, like, hey, I'm so and so, I would love to be a data scientist, and interested in maybe in agriculture. That's it. That has given you already the first path to move, because most of us, we're coming into the field without just being like, we just want to get into AI. You move into the field, you realize everything is just on its own. There's no standards and all that. So you lost in the sea. What happens after some time? There's so much information, as I earlier mentioned in my first statement, that there's so much information to learn. So at the end of the day, you lost, you quit, because you're like, this is too much. I was never prepared or informed that I'm coming into a field that outside looks so fancy, but inside there's so much to be done. And I believe, yes, those are what I would love those of us who get into the field at least have that before you even start thinking, okay, which tools will I learn or all that. First, have that in mind and know that these are the kind of expectations you're going to expect, and that will really help you scale up in whichever track and whatever activities you want to do in the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in your journey, you have learned and grown with experts in the industry. From your experience, what really sets apart a good data scientist from a great data scientist?
That's a very good question. With the short stint that I've had with a few, I would say, industry experts, both locally and internationally, there are four key things that they've always been common around them, that I've got to learn from them and also look at how they do the things. One of them is they're really good software engineers. And what I say by that is they have embraced good software engineering practices, because you're talking of data science and machine learning being a new field that's taking up shape. But where is it coming from? If you look at the history, it's all computer science. But now we're leveraging it with the power of data. So as much as we're going to write all the coding and everything, are we writing clean code? Are we writing code that follows, if it's in Python, the PEP8 standard? A code that if you push that kind of solution in production, there will not be many bugs and issues. So one key thing is we need to start embracing good software engineering practices. So that's one key thing that in these big companies they always look for. not how the kind of coding, how complex and all that, but do you follow the good coding practices and all that? And also, key thing that differentiates a data scientist, a great data scientist, is you should have a very strong business impact. Remember, we mentioned, we briefly described data science as where you basically leveraging on your data, asking it very many questions and getting to see what the insights, what patterns can we get from this data, and all those kind of questions. So that basically means is we are taking business questions to try and see how can data help us answer. So that means as a great data scientist, you really need to have a good business acumen. Let's say maybe you want to be focusing on agriculture, and maybe whatever kind of subdomain in agriculture, get to understand the intricacies in the whole field, because basically data science and machine learning is just a tool that will help you. So I'll be more interested to, and you're able to differentiate a great data scientist because he or she has a good business acumen. So that means that they're able to build solutions that power business, and you see business is there to come up with solutions that powers that will help them generate revenue. So that is the second trait that I would say for those of us who want to become data scientists, you really have to have good understanding of the domain. And I believe best ways to learn this is if let's say you're doing healthcare and you want to take up machine learning in healthcare. That's pretty good because it's in line with your course. When at times you find some of us, you may be hailing from a non-technical background and you want to let's say maybe from economics and statistics, and you want to focus in I would say machine learning in agriculture. That means probably you've not had much domain expertise in the field. The best thing and way to do is, that is the field that you want to move into, yes, start getting support system, and in this case get a domain expert from the field who will help you continue learning. And also fourth but not least is a great data scientist. It's someone who is good, I'd say, insane creativity and curiosity. Be a curious person, because again we're saying that you answering questions with data. So the more you ask these many questions with the data, if you identify there's some unusual trend, you have that curiosity of getting to like know how can this data help me answer this, and that is basically demonstrated either through what the kind of solutions you're building or how you ask questions. So I would love us to embrace that culture of asking questions, and more so in this case, of course, the questions are related to the business or the kind of area that you're focusing in, and also being curious, because it's through curiosity out of that gives you gives you ideas. Because when you're curious and you start being innovative, you'll start thinking of ideas, and at the end of the day you'll have come up with innovative data-driven solutions. So those are the four traits that I would say sets a data scientist, a great data scientist, from a good data scientist, and now what I would say a struggling data scientist. Because you'll find like a struggling data scientist will be like, maybe you've been given like a problem in a domain that you don't understand, which is quite okay, it can happen. But do you know strategies on how you can tackle that? Like what we've mentioned, one, you can get a domain expert in that field, you can get papers to start working on, you can get you can go research. So basically understand the domain and know that data science or machine learning is just a tool. So if you don't understand your problem and the setting where you're coming from, well, it'll become harder for you to even come up with a solution. Yeah. So those are the key traits. I would say the people that I've interacted with, they look at how do you reason, how do you think around the problems, how do you look at your environment and everything. When it comes now to the technical part, what kind of coding, how do you write your code and everything. If it's you're talking of you focusing on a certain domain, what do you know about the field? What are the trends in the field? Like, yeah.
And what do you intend to learn in your career or in life? Something new?
Aside from my career field, okay, career-wise, right now I'm heavily focusing on deep learning in PyTorch, because again, for me, when it comes, as we earlier mentioned, on the various specializations in the AI field, I'm heavily focusing on natural language processing. And I've been playing around with the various frameworks that are there. So for now, I'll be taking up fully PyTorch and FastAI, because again, we see state-of-the-art resorts are moving towards that side, and we're all talking of we need to be result-driven people. So career-wise, I want to heavily focus on deep learning now, but not taking up TensorFlow. I've built a couple of solutions with TensorFlow, but now I'll be taking up PyTorch, and FastAI, heavily on natural language processing. Aside from career-wise, I just want to move out here and create social impact, and also get to discover myself well and enjoy life. More so to that, and keep on learning every day, because we get to learn a lot aside from just career-wise. But at the end of the day, ensure that I have lived up to career-wise. I've been able to create impact for both the business sector and the social aspect, building solutions for social good, and also aside from that, create impact again at social level with people and other kind of projects, and live my life, okay, and also have fun and die and transition to the next phase of life. That's it. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Kennedy.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Pleasure.
Great, and I'm so grateful for having me here, and keep up the great work that you're doing, getting to share this information out there to the people, and also helping most of us who are in different locations to get to learn more through your YouTube channel. And we're so grateful and for your generosity and the content and everything that you're pushing there for us, and keep up the great work. Thank you.